Welcome to Wake Up with Dr. Cheryl. I'm Dr. Cheryl, and tonight we have a very special guest, and it is Hunter Moore from the Redwoods, and that's a senior community in Mill Valley. So he is a local guy here, and welcome.
Well, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, of course. We met, and I've shared that I do drive for Uber. So we met in Sausalito, and I took you to the airport, and we got to talking, and now here you are.
Yeah, it was a fascinating conversation and a wonderful ride. Thank you very much.
And that's why I wanted to have you on the show, because I want you to be able to share openly about you. I mean, first tell us about who you are and where you came from.
Sure. Well, I can go way back and talk about why I'm even in this business, if that's helpful.
Well, that's all part of it.
Basically, two
Yes.
grandmothers and a great aunt that needed care a long time ago when the first continuing care communities were being developed.
Yeah.
And before.
And that's back in
Massachusetts.
Massachusetts.
Right.
Okay.
And I had a great aunt at one of them, and I loved it. But there were things about it that I thought needed to be changed or improved.
Right.
And then when my mother's mother developed a tumor on her frontal lobe, she was in good health, but needed, because she was losing her touch with reality, needed a protected or safe environment. And this is well before what's now commonly called assisted living was developed. So there wasn't any place within even about an hour. It was almost a 2-hour drive away, and I just thought that was wrong.
Too far.
And it sort of inspired me to do a lot of what I do today.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. So what is your background?
Well, I thought about medicine. I thought about law. Did a little bit of business. Have a strong numbers background and was doing work for banks and financial institutions. And it was getting a pretty good paycheck here, but not really the return I wanted here. And I was in the consulting business and was able to move from working with banks to working with retirement communities and consulting, doing market research and consulting.
So how did you get that bridge?
It was a little bit of a challenge and a little bit of a leap of faith. I had taken an evening marketing course when our division was looking at doing more business and identified it as an opportunity because of the interest and a growing one for us to look into. The company decided not to do it, and so I said, okay, well, I'm going to try it on my own.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you have an innate passion for it.
I do.
So
it's just so much fun. I can't really explain why, but I was always closer than my brother and sisters to my grandparents. And just had that kind of love and interest in hearing the stories and working with, helping them with their lives.
And hearing the wisdom probably too.
Yes. Yeah. Great stories. Fascinating stories.
Yeah. So they've probably been gone for quite a while?
They have, yes. My parents are both 90 now.
Oh,
and
wow.
I helped them move to a retirement community when they were in their early 80s.
Okay.
And then
are they also back in Boston?
They're outside of Boston,
outside.
Right?
Okay.
In a community called North Hill, which is in Needham, which is right on 128. Many people in here might be familiar with that area because it was the high-tech area for a while.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, they're 90, and they're both now in skilled care, nursing care.
Yeah. Are they
different needs?
I mean, are they fairly healthy?
Well, no, they're in skilled care because my
okay.
father has carotid arteries, and so doesn't get enough blood to his brain anymore, and his short-term memory is pretty shot. Yeah. His long-term memory is still pretty good. Yeah. And my mother followed about 6 months later, mainly due to pain. She had been taking care of him, living for him, helping him, and when that was released, started focusing on herself, and really ended up with more challenges. And went through a really bad period, but working with the physicians and the team at the community, we were able to get her to a good place where she's actually, I speak with her weekly, and I'll go visit her in a couple of weeks now, but she's at a very good place where she feels like it is now the right place for her, and she's happier about things.
But she's astute?
Very much, very connected.
Good, good, yeah. So I know that you, from sharing in the car, you are bi-coastal, basically.
Yes, yes.
That must be
I did,
a challenge.
I did move here from essentially the D.C. market. I lived in Arlington, Virginia, and worked with a community there.
Yeah.
But my daughter went to Santa Clara. And so I was coming back and forth a good bit. I have a sister who lives in San Anselmo.
Oh,
And
well,
so
that makes it easy.
I was out here for several years, and I
Yeah.
felt I knew what I was getting into. And one of my wife's best friends is in the city, so
Oh, well, then,
yeah,
yeah.
it felt
It's an
very
easy-
comfortable.
Easy change.
And when we were looking for an opportunity, my wife and I both, when I was clear our daughter was our youngest, wasn't coming back east, we said, well, where could we be? And about a month later, a headhunter called about this opportunity. And I found out about this great community that's
The
in Mill Valley.
Redwoods.
Yes, and unique is an overused word, so I don't try to use unique to describe it, but it is very different from most other retirement communities.
And how is it different? This is what I want
Yes.
to get into.
Yeah, sure,
you know.
sure.
So-
Yeah, there aren't a lot of people that do what I do, and so I had an opportunity to explore several different opportunities. Most communities are really designed for very wealthy people.
Right.
And many have an entry fee that's thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And that's great. And people with money can be in those communities and be taken care of. And people with money generally will be taken care of one way or another. The Redwoods was started by the Community Church of Mill Valley as an affordable alternative retirement community. And really, they've stayed true to that commitment for now almost 50 years.
Wow.
And
Is that how long they've been there?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
wow.
Early
Okay.
70s.
Okay.
And so it's fascinating.
I noticed that they've been doing a lot of construction. Are
They-
they still doing construction there?
Well, I came on about 2 months after the final work was done.
Oh, okay.
And
okay.
so no, fortunately the construction's done. People lived through about 5 years of construction, and there were a lot of challenges, as there always are, whether you're renovating your home or a bathroom
Right,
or the kitchen or a big community like we were. There was a lot of work. Fortunately, I came at the end of that.
Yeah, well, that's good. Makes it a little bit easier for the entry of, taking over. So what makes it different?
Well, how much
Sorry,
time do we have today?
Well, let's see. We have 50 minutes left.
Yes. The affordability is one of the things. Its structure is different than most communities. It's a continuing care retirement community in that it has several levels of care that it offers, but it's what's called in California a multi-level care community rather than a life care. And a life care, you pay a lot up front and they guarantee to take care of you for the rest of your life.
Oh, okay.
With the Redwoods, there's separate contracts for independent living apartments, assisted living, and we call it residential living, which is sort of independent living with services. So you can go in there and just have meals and housekeeping, but you can layer in additional services if and when you need them.
Oh, okay.
So
But
it's a
then
more affordable sort of entry point.
Oh, okay.
And then there's skilled nursing as well. But within the independent living, over a third of the apartments are only available to low-income residents. They're HUD subsidized. And I think most people say
don't even
a
know.
retirement community in Marin, it's got to be, ridiculously
That's
expensive.
why I also wanted to have you on here
Right.
to show that there is affordability
Yes.
for retirement living.
Yeah. And in Marin,
Aging.
for people that are in Marin, people from the East Bay are coming and South Bay are coming in the city, but it's predominantly people that live in southern Marin that choose to move there.
Yeah.
And it really is an
So you said
affordable option.
You said about a third are, I don't want to say low income, but
Of the independent living, yes.
Independent
Yes,
living.
over a third of the apartments are
Yeah.
available for
Wow.
it. And you
And-
can absolutely say low income. It is the federal standards.
yeah.
And actually, there's a unique system with HUD housing where you have to have some people that are low income and then extremely low. And you might have to then have 2 extremely lows before you submit another or admit another person at low income. And those standards in this area, low income is a pretty high threshold.
Right,
And
of
so some
course.
people say, I'm not low income. But you can be asset rich. You can have a very valuable house, which a lot of people do, and be still considered low income because
you don't have
the asset's not considered as generating much of your income. So a lot of people who are on Social Security and a pension are still, despite what they think, considered low income and can take advantage of those programs.
Yeah.
Now I say take advantage, but it's very limited, and people don't turn over quickly in those situations.
Yeah. So are there any levels of health,
Oh, absolutely.
So
some people in independent living will get services in their apartment provided by somebody to help assist them, and we can provide housekeeping and maintenance assistance, but we don't have an at-home service provider. The licensing for assisted living allows us to provide a full range of services for people in their apartments. So medications, assistance with dressing, bathing, and other activities
like
of daily living. Yes, very much so. And then we have skilled nursing as well, where and again, people aren't aware of this, but we serve people in a private pay basis, but also in Medicare and Medicaid. So, and in California it's called Medi-Cal, but Medicaid. So that's designed for people with low income that need a skilled nursing setting.
So they're subsidized in those levels when they're in there, and if they need it.
Yes, absolutely. And so a lot of people don't know this, and most of us don't go through it more than once or twice in our lifetimes and don't even know what questions to ask. As a result, I end up helping people here and across the country generally about every month, trying to figure out what to do with their parents. And we as a community help people all the time because we are only so big and we can't serve everybody that has a need.
Is there, there must be a waiting list.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, a long one?
Well, for the independent living or the HUD subsidized independent living, both are pretty long wait lists. And we have birthday parties for everybody, and we find out a little bit about them. And we also have an annual party with people that have moved in the last year. And as we went around and asked people how long they were on the wait list, most people were on the wait list for 6 to 10 years.
Oh, wow.
So I always encourage people too, if you're thinking, oh, I'm not ready yet, I'm too young for this.
But get on the list.
Get on a couple lists. No, not just ours, but get on a couple lists, because by the time you think you are ready, you might, if you're not already on the list, you might not be able to get in when you want to. So,
are there any plans to, grow a bigger community there? Build a bigger community?
We would love to. It's about 10 acres, and I don't think people realize that because it's 147 independent living apartments. It's 134 assisted living apartments, and up to 58 nursing beds over a 10-acre campus with primarily 2- and 3-story buildings.
It does not look that big at all.
It doesn't.
It's very deceiving.
I can't tell you how many people have said they drove by and didn't even realize it was a retirement community.
No, it just blends in with the community.
Yeah,
but I had no idea that it was that large.
Lovely, but it is. It's almost like a 5-legged spider or something. So they have wings that go out, and it feels quite low. But I was struck the other day. We often take pictures that show the community and Mount Tam in the background, and that's a lovely shot. But I was up on the top of Mount Tam the other day and looking down, and to see it, and then Richardson Bay, and on across the bay to the city, and how close we are. I think a lot of people forget that too. And we have one of the other unique things is, well, probably the most unique thing is the culture that's there, and that culture of supporting and enabling people to still give back.
What does that mean? Give back? What does that mean?
A lot of the retirement housing industry, and I'm not being critical here, but a lot of the retirement housing industry is sort of paternalistic, and it says, you've led a rich, full life. It's time for us to take care of you. And we kind of turn that on its head. We ask people when they're coming in how they are going to make the community better. And some people misunderstand that. What I'm saying is, you've led a rich, full life. You've got something to give. Not that you're done, but you still have opportunities to give and share and make the world a better place.
Are you saying like creatively?
Absolutely, absolutely. All of those. We have artists in residence, and we have these great presentations they make and share with all of us and run run the art class, not us running the art class. And many people,
the residents.
Yeah, many people know us for the Seniors for Peace, and they see
yes,
them.
I've seen them sitting on the corner,
Yes,
protesting
every Friday from 4 to 5 o'clock.
Every Friday.
Every Friday, rain or shine, doesn't matter the temperature. They're out there singing protest songs, waving their signs.
My goodness.
I've actually had an opportunity to join them a number of times.
Is John
I
out
play
there
the guitar
doing that?
a little bit. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Can other people from the community join in with
Seniors
them?
for Peace is an organization where they actually welcome people all the time, and they have regular meetings, they have discussions, they have movies, they have people come in, and yes, we love welcoming additional people to the group. So if you're just walking by, or you happen to drive by and want to join in, please do. We love it. We also love it when people honk, and that's.
I've done that.
The first time being out there with them, and somebody honked, I was like, "Oh, that's so exciting!" And it was great.
Yeah,
and it is great.
You know, it's like a movement. You know,
Right.
and we need that more than ever now with what's going on.
And the ability, one of the you said movement, it made me think one of the most moving things they did was when the Mount Tam students were going to have a walkout I guess not support, but to protest gun violence.
Oh, right.
The residents and much of the staff came out, and we were on the corner of Camino Alto across from where the students were. And our understanding was the students were going to walk up to the middle school and back, and we thought we'd join them.
Oh,
and
wow.
they didn't. They stayed over there.
Oh.
So we, in a little bit of civil disobedience, walked across the street, all of us, and it took a few minutes because we have some people that need some assistance and don't move quickly. But we all joined the students, and I think they loved it. I know our residents loved it.
That is a statement.
It was wonderful.
Love that, you know, convergence of ages too. I mean, that is for the same purpose.
Right.
Bringing them together.
It was wonderful. But that's just one small example of the many, many things we do. Everybody has a daily calendar. Everybody has a weekly calendar and a monthly calendar. We have a 26-page guide of different things that people do, whether it's spirituality or technology or actually, I got a massage from a person I met who was coming from a Tillich discussion, who is a masseuse in the general area. And she was just coming out while I was leaving one night, and we got talking. And these kind of things just happen because we have so many different things going on.
Open.
Celebrating what residents do and trying to support it and get out of the way.
Celebrating life.
Yes.
No matter how old you are.
It doesn't. I mean, there's all ageism is a real thing, and there are all sorts of isms, and we try to support.
It's more physical.
Yeah, well, there is that. Many discussions, and my parents' main activity, it seemed for a while, was visiting doctors. They're sort of at a different point, but there's often discussions about physical ailments or challenges. But we celebrate all the rest. Yes,
the minds, the heart, the arts.
Yeah, if we have a soft safety net, but basically support people staying as independent and as engaged as possible. So I think that's probably how I'd describe it.
What do you mean a soft safety net?
Well, if you're at your own home and you fall, and you might, and this happened to my own grandmother. She didn't show up for a lunch one time, and I went over and I had to break the screen and get in and help her. Now, if that had happened here, somebody would have been available to help, and help her sooner. So there are kind of different levels that we all get to at a point where it's almost the reverse of childhood, where you have different needs, and you need more guidance or support or not. So when I was raising my children, the older they got, the less I worried about exactly where they were and what was going on at any one time. But you know, if you're in the area and you know what's going on and they need you, you're there. And that's what I mean by soft safety.
Absolutely. Well, I just wanted clarification for the viewers.
Sure.
So what else? My goodness.
You know, it's just amazing to me how many people have misconceptions about the Redwoods and retirement housing in general. There are a few big providers, And what I found in talking with some of the people at the other communities, and they're wonderful options here, and there's 2 new ones coming to San Rafael, just approved this year.
Okay, when are they
the San
supposed?
Rafael area.
Oh.
And it usually takes a couple of years between getting approval and actually opening a building.
Right.
So in a couple of years they'll be coming on.
Will it be new construction, or they
Yes.
take? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
both will be new.
Okay.
But the other providers, we all offer something that's very different, and I think people need to find that community where they feel most comfortable.
Absolutely.
Some people want more of a hotel resort type atmosphere. Some people want something more relaxed. Some people want something more formal. Each community kind of takes on its own flavor. And our community was intentionally designed to be affordable but nice for people that could afford something else. It has a certain feel, and it has a certain political bent, and that works for some people. But if somebody likes that, they probably won't like one of the others. But if somebody likes one of the others, and there are good other options in Marin, they're probably not going to want us. So I don't feel we're really competitive. I think we're complementary. And I've been starting to talk with some of the heads of the other communities now that I've been here about 8 months to try and reach out and say, you know, what can we do together?
Exactly.
This community is one of the oldest in the state, oldest in the country, one of the wealthiest, healthiest groups, which is wonderful. And there's about to be an explosion, about a 50% increase in Corte Madera alone, 35% increase in people over 65 in the next 12 years.
Wow.
And the needs are changing, the desires are changing, society is changing.
Oh boy.
What we want, what we're willing to be patient for. I don't know if you've been impatient recently with somebody not answering their cell phone or trying to get a computer to, you had to wait a few seconds for an answer.
Yes.
Well, 20 years ago,
I
we didn't have
Forget
that.
it. Yeah.
But now with Uber and Amazon and everything, people coming in are wanting things differently. So our industry is changing.
Yeah, when they get educated on all those opportunities, then it changes everything.
And the growth of at-home services is shrinking the percentage of people that will even choose to go to a retirement community. But people are starting to come in with the now kind of general society thing of wanting what they want, when they want it, where they want it, which is different. Most communities were designed so that people went to independent living, and if they needed more services, moved to assisted living, and if they needed more care, moved to nursing.
Isn't that like Villa Marin?
Yeah, absolutely.
They have
Villa Marin,
I've
Tamalpais,
been in there,
Aldersley, all good
Aldersley,
communities. And we all offer something similar, different way of doing it. An ownership model, a high buy-in model, a more moderate buy-in model on a hill, separated over in more of an urban setting, more of a spread out setting. Very different, but people now are coming in and they're not wanting to move. They're coming into the level that they want, and then they want everything provided to them there.
Yeah.
And that's changing. And some of these new products, new providers are offering different models, larger apartments where more things are provided in the apartment. And it's less of that kind of community aspect. That's frankly something I'm a little concerned about because what I like and what I think people get out of moving to a community is not only they planned ahead and they want that soft safety net and they want the balanced meals and the programs that are easy to get to regardless of the weather without driving, but they also want the community.
Right, and that's important.
And we're people. I mean, at the end of the day, we're social beings.
Yes,
right.
That's right.
Right, and I think to the extent to which you isolate and provide everything in an apartment, it doesn't encourage you to be out. As a matter of fact, sometimes we talk about all the things that are available to you at the Redwoods, and by the way, you get an apartment too. It's the living, it's the activities, it's the wellness, it's the trips, it's the community, it's the bridge game, it's all those things you want, and you happen to live there. But we need to probably reach out to some of the people too, to the community even better. The last 5 years or so, a lot of the focus has been internal because of the renovations.
Oh,
and so a lot of the things that they did, that the communities, that the community appreciated and was involved in, had to kind of take a back seat for a while where there was construction going on. So I'm actively working to do more things, to look at more partnerships, to bring more people in, to enliven it even more than it is. With it,
like
whether
to
it's
have
high
social
schools
groups
or
within the community.
absolutely, and people that are on our wait list that maybe don't want to come for a while, but if we have a soft yoga class, or we have a Zumba class, and it's designed for 25 people and 15, 16 residents sign up, well, that means there's an opportunity for more people to join it. And technology is advancing so much. That's the other big change in our field. That we can let people know that and let people sign up for that and be able to drop in and participate in things. So
from other communities.
we're actively looking at how to engage more people and how to, using technology, not only communicate what's available to the residents there, but to the broader community and their families too. So that you can tell, oh, hey, Mom's at the Tillich discussion today, or she's at the Enlightenment discussion, or she's doing the outing to the symphony today.
Is there, there must be an app for that.
There are several, and that's what we're actively looking at. Not a lot of communities have adopted that, but we're right here just north of the Silicon Valley.
There's no excuse.
Well, there are a lot of people and some pretty good ideas. They're starting to look at the senior market. It's interesting, we talked to some people affiliated with a robot company, and this robot was designed, it was a tabletop robot, to be, because the founder saw this need and saw all these people and said, seniors are going to need something more because there are not going to be enough caregivers to provide for them. And so this not just responsive but interactive, initiative kind of robot would be able to help with those things. And they went to venture capitalists, and the venture capitalists said, for seniors? No, we're not going to give you any money. I said, well, what do we make it for kids? And they said, oh yeah, here's a bunch of money. And once they got it up, they said, they started talking to us about, well, how do we get back to our original idea?
How about the older bodies with the kid inside of them?
Right. And voice-activated technology. You don't have to use a mouse. You don't have to use a keyboard. You don't have to know programming. You don't have to click around.
Because I think that is the fear of most elders, is that to get into it, they're afraid.
It's too much work.
Yeah.
Now you take an Amazon Alexa product, and you just say, what's the weather today? I like to still follow the Red Sox. So I can say, what was the score? Actually, I did just before I came here. So I know what happened last night. And the Reds, well, they beat the Orioles.
Oh, okay.
But I also listen to a series of different news features. I can hear Reuters and NBC and BBC, and I just have it programmed. So I say, Alexa, give my flash briefings. And I don't want to do an ad for Alexa per se, because Google's there and Siri's there and others are there. But it's so easy. I don't have to, if I had problems like my mother does with terrible arthritis in her fingers, I don't have to type on something. If I have macular degeneration or something, I don't have to see it. All I have to do is be able to talk. And most of us can still talk. And it's wonderful, whether you want to know the weather or the news or your favorite music. So, or when the bus is coming, or what the movie is that
Can they call Uber?
Yes, actually, yes. Some of them have partnerships with Lyft, and not Uber, but probably will. And anything that follows that. So it's making life easier and making it easier to be engaged.
And it's just getting them educated on this so they can utilize it.
And again, there's that danger of, will it isolate somebody or will it be used to help them engage in something?
Well, that's
what we'll be focused on.
That I see with the millennials. Is that they've isolated themselves in their
you can go to a coffee shop.
It isn't just
Starbucks,
the millennials.
Whatever. Yeah, you look around and there are 20 people in there.
They're not talking to themselves. I mean, they're just in their phones and they're not interacting, and it's like, oh my God.
Yeah, one of my favorite, I think it was a New Yorker cartoon, was people were saying, hey, do you want to get together? And somebody else was saying, yeah, what do you want to do? And yeah, when could you be available? And they were all talking to one another, sitting at different tables.
I mean,
by
I
their
don't
phone.
know. I have a problem with that.
And I don't want to see it in a retirement
No.
community. I don't want to see that become the social engagement.
And I hope this will evolve.
We don't. I shouldn't say I. It's the Redwoods.
It's we.
It's really our
yeah,
mission.
I understand.
And hopefully our society.
And I want to see that also shift with the millennial generation. That they're not all like that, but it's isolating.
It is. It can be.
And socially inept.
Right. But now the flip side of that is telemedicine. And telemedicine is going to be huge for retirement communities. Because the last thing you want to do if you're sick and you're frail is go to a place where there are a bunch of other sick people.
Yes.
And it's interesting.
So telemedicine.
Yes.
Explain that.
Okay. Well, Kaiser recently had published that more people visited their physician or interacted with their primary physician through the internet than in person. Yeah. And I think that's a sign of what's coming. If somebody could say, I'm concerned about this, or I have this, and somebody can verbally, or even better, visually show a physician and talk to a physician about what's going on.
Well, they could do it on Skype on the computer.
Right. You can do it on Skype. You can do it on several of the products that are out now. You can do it on your phone. You can
FaceTime,
There are a lot of ways you can do it, but
Messenger.
it's really kind of at that edge now, where it will be helpful to people so that you're not spending time and the community's not funding time for somebody to go in an ambulance when they don't need to go to an emergency room and sit for hours when they don't need to. I believe what's coming soon is a fundamental change in that how people get care and when you go and where you go for the care.
And it can be determined at what level,
yes,
by having the professionals on the other side.
Right.
Yeah.
And the beauty of the internet and technology is if you talk to your generalist or your physician and they need a specialist, it's like that.
Yeah.
And they can share that the information, the history, and people can make good informed decisions where it would have taken days, if not weeks, to understand what's going on with somebody.
Yeah.
Now it's seconds.
Yeah.
It's really wonderful.
And the elders just need to have training on how to use it. That's all,
And it's becoming so easy and so available through voice activation and these gadgets. And the people I was talking to said, come September or October, you're going to see a whole new fleet of them coming out for the holiday season that have audio and visual.
Oh, okay.
And so we're real excited about what that's going to mean to our community and communities in general.
Helping them, just solving lots of issues.
And for somebody that isn't as mobile or able to get out or get around, my mom hasn't been able to fly for a couple of years, to be able to just say, drop in on mom, and be able to have it just answer, and you have the visual interaction. It's nice, and many people that we serve are. I'm surprised in this area how many people are from other countries, and many people that we serve have relatives in other countries. They found San Francisco and didn't want to go anywhere.
Paradise.
Yes.
One of them anyway.
Yes, and it's wonderful to be able to find an easy, essentially free way, because Wi-Fi is becoming more and more available anywhere, and we recently updated ours and it's available throughout our community. But where you don't even have to pay for the service to be able to talk to somebody. I remember when I was in college, I'd call my grandmother late on Sunday nights because that's when the rates were cheap. And I didn't have a whole lot of money at the point, or I wanted to save money. And now, anytime, anywhere, you can get just about anybody. And if you can do it with just your voice, you can be essentially immobile and still have that interaction. And that's really important because, again, back to
connection.
We're social beings.
Love,
we
connection,
need that,
and the social.
It doesn't replace touch, but it's the next best thing.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's a lot. That's great. So, what else can you share about the Redwoods and what's going forward? And
well, we're looking at these advances in technology and the changes in people's attitudes and trying to adapt. I think that's one of the things that a lot of people, I think as an industry, we're generally behind there.
Okay. So, but what are you talking about attitude? What do you mean? Attitudes from the elders or from the technical
Right.
part of it, not wanting to deal with?
Probably both.
Oh, okay.
And attitude maybe isn't the right word. I'm sorry if I
Oh,
use
no,
that one.
no,
But
but I mean, I don't know.
it's an approach and it's an understanding of, we're in a flux period for the industry in general.
Yeah.
And traditional healthcare is changed dramatically. And traditional skilled care has changed dramatically. And reimbursements, whether you're talking about hospitals or rehab centers or nursing homes, they're changing, and they're changing a lot. Some people will always need that. And I liken it to when my daughter was young and she'd fall and scrape her knee. And I would either look at it, kiss it, and put a Band-Aid on it, and we're off. Or it would be more serious, and I might want to go to the doctor. And the doctor might look at it and put stitches or something, and we'd come home.
Right.
But the goal was coming home.
Right.
Or if it's really bad, they might say, well, you need to go to the hospital and get this checked out. And they might be there for a little while, but they would come home. And technology has advanced so much in medicine that most people aren't staying at the hospital for long, and the recoveries are much faster. And so it's changing what people want and where people want to recover. And that's changing the whole dynamic of what is reimbursed or not, what's covered or not if you have a long-term care policy. And a lot of the way people are wanting to, and the care is advanced, is the technology, the providers, the insurance agents, the reimbursement people haven't caught up with
They're not,
that.
working together.
Now, the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare are catching up and talking about providing for, if you break your hip, you're going to get a certain amount of money, and whether you use that at rehab or nursing or home care, doesn't matter, but this is the money you're getting, and they're thinking that way people will choose home care, which will generally cost less, and save money, and the recovery time will be the same.
I understand what you're saying, and one thing I did learn, I was a consultant for Marin General Hospital in their finance department, and I learned that the Medicare, they have a value for each level of your body.
Right, right.
And it's like, wait a minute here.
Sure.
But that's how they...
It's become a monetized system because there's just not enough money. And things are changing so much about what you need and what you don't need. And it's wonderful that the recoveries are so quick.
Well, and it's also important to be self-educated about your own health.
Yes. And your options.
Yeah.
And I do, you asked what else should people know. We're all getting older, or we know somebody is older, and trying to understand the options before you have a need is really important and really valuable. And trying to plan ahead. And whether it's, I've filled out the 5 wishes. Are you familiar with the 5 wishes?
5 wishes?
Yes. And it's healthcare directives and what I'd want said and what I want to happen to me when I die. Right. I've had my children fill that out. Yeah. It's a hard conversation to have with your parents, but it's really important to plan ahead for what you would want, whether it's what you want when you die or whether you want when you're still living but maybe need some help, because there are these very different communities, and sometimes we're not in a position to make that decision, or we're put in a position where we have to make it quickly.
Yes.
And if we haven't thought about it in advance, if we haven't had those somewhat difficult discussions with our loved ones in advance, then we don't really know what they want, and we end up making bad and sometimes expensive mistakes.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, my dad passed away right before his 58th birthday, so I was kind of robbed from that aging, dilemma, or, well, it would have been, an honor to be there, but didn't happen.
Right.
So
Yeah.
anyway.
My wife had a similar thing with both her father and her mother. So she didn't go through that, but she like you had issues at a much earlier age than many of us face, and that most of us in Marin will face. It's really people here are
have
healthier
a bubble.
and better. Yes.
It's conducive to eating healthier, except that we are being contaminated by all these chemicals, and I won't get into that because I've done several shows on that.
That's another show.
That's another show. Actually, they're on, but I know it's contributing to health issues. I mean, the cancers have gone up exponentially. Autism and Alzheimer's have gone up exponentially because of the contamination. And I want to stay positive because there are options to stop it. But we have to be strong and have our goals and keep going.
And hopefully we will. And I'm glad you brought up to memory issues, because that's one area where we really don't serve people with significant memory issues. And one of the reasons is we're right on the marsh. We look out onto Richardson's Bay, and people could get out there, and we don't have a closed environment. We have many, many doors.
Yes.
So there are good providers if what you're dealing with is somebody with cognitive impairments. And it, Alzheimer's, once you've examined somebody's brain. So a lot of things are lumped into Alzheimer's. It used to be senility or dementia or other terms.
Right.
And there are really good providers. There are communities like Windchime and Sunrise of San Rafael that only provide for people with Alzheimer's, and they do a very good job. So I don't want people to be scared or have that image in their mind of what it's like in a retirement community, or particularly at the Redwoods. When I say, it's affordable and we serve low-income people, sometimes people have an image in their mind of what that means.
Oh, I know.
And
wrong
it's
image.
so different. One of our biggest challenges is just getting somebody to come inside, and when they do, and they're so relaxed and they see people having fun, it changes that whole dynamic. It's not. It's a place to go and be supported, not and encouraged, and to do only those things you want to do. That's what I love. I mean, I'm some people think I'm a little odd, but I like to. I'm looking forward to the time where I can go and I can do the painting class, I can do the exercise class, I can do a number of things that I want to do, and not do anything I don't want to do. I live in Sausalito. You picked me up in Sausalito.
Yes, that's right.
What I pay in Sausalito is about what I would pay to be at the Redwoods, and I don't get meals, and we have a wellness center with an exercise room, gym, and all these classes that are free, and the bus thing's free, and the trips, and the outings, and the tours, and the lectures, and the movies. I saw The Shape of Water there.
Oh, okay.
People from the Mountain Play came and did a shortened version of Mamma Mia there.
Oh, nice.
It's wonderful, and it's free, and it's included, and I almost feel like, well, why am I paying to live here and not getting any of these things when I could live here and have all of this? I honestly, I'm looking forward to the opportunity to do that, and I think that's another thing that people miss out. They say, it would be sad or depressing or something. I think it's exciting. I think it's wonderful. And when you come to a community like the Redwoods, you see all these opportunities. And that's really, I think probably the biggest message I could give is that not only the Redwoods, there are a lot of good providers, but the Redwoods in particular has so many things to see and do and make your life interesting that are easy to do.
The location is prime. It's a prime location.
One would think so, but again, so many people I know that I've met out here said,
"It's modest."
Where is that?
Yeah,
and I said, "Do you know where Mount Tam is?" And they said, "Oh yeah." And I said, "Do you know where the Safeway is?" And I said, "Oh yeah." And I said, "Well, we're right across from both of them." Tam High School. Yeah, sorry, Tam High School.
Yeah.
And I say we're right across, and they say, "I didn't know that." And,
no, it's modest. It's not, And that's okay.
Well, the other thing that I probably should have said
earlier. It's not pretentious.
No. One of the things one of the board members said, former board member now, and I was having dinner at, I think it's Taco Joe's right there on Miller. It's a great fun, a lot of kitschy little things. But they said, if anything, the Redwoods is pretentious about not being pretentious.
Yeah.
It's
I can see that.
downhill, down
to earth.
played, down to earth.
Down
yes,
to earth.
right.
Yeah.
You can be there and just be comfortable. It's
Well,
like going
you
to
know,
church in your jeans.
I'll quote what Michael Pritchard said. He said that 50%, and of course he's been a resident in Marin for many, many years. He goes, 50% get it and 50% don't.
Right.
So.
And that's probably true. And it's actually, in our case, it's probably more like 90-10. 10% get it, and that's great, and they love it, and they're living it, and other people are struggling at home, and
Are you saying in the retirement?
are choosing to go to a retirement
okay.
community. Yeah. Most people say, and my father said, I'm going to leave this house in a pine box, and he didn't, and he moved to another house, and then he moved to a retirement community because A, it was the right thing to do. B, he did it as much for my mother and us so that we didn't have worries. But C, also, it offered him a really good lifestyle. He wasn't alone. He had socialization. He played bridge 3 nights a week with different people there.
Yeah.
He didn't have to drive anywhere to do this. He was able to be fully engaged without the challenges that often come with aging. And so the isolation.
Then he could go home when he wanted to.
Right. And you can be at our community and shut your door and not come out for a week if that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
But most people don't.
Yeah, sure. Well, they build friendships, relationships too.
And I mentioned about the long waiting list for independent living, but actually for assisted living, or what we call residential living, if you're ready, you can probably be in a couple of weeks because there's
turnover.
There's more turnover, and that's
because
another unusual thing.
People are expiring,
or moving to a different level, or needing other things. But and there's a fair amount of competition. But unlike most communities, they have a lot of independent living and a small assisted living and an even smaller nursing.
Sure.
Our independent and our assisted living, our residential living apartments, sort of independent living with services, is almost the exact same size in terms of number of apartments available.
Right.
And people don't seem to understand that they can move in because they've heard it's a long wait list.
Yeah.
You'll never get in. They also don't realize you can come into the residential living or the nursing or the independent living direct from home. You don't have to go to one to another to another.
But you have to qualify.
You do, but it's not terribly hard to qualify.
Yeah,
So I think that's another kind of misconception.
Easier access.
And this isn't true with all retirement communities. The other ones that I mentioned, it's not necessarily true that you can come into any level of care.
Right.
More and more so because things are changing. More communities are allowing that, but this is something that Redwoods has always done. And I think people don't know that as well. So I'd love the opportunity to share that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And hopefully serve more people. Our goal is to serve as many people as we can on or off campus.
Yeah. Well, I think when you bring like-minded people together, that always helps, whether they live in the same area or, this is Marin.
Right.
And maybe outside of Marin too,
It's such a beautiful area too.
So.
And more are coming, and more is planned, and more options will be coming, and different things. So I encourage people to stay on top of it. If you got on a list a while ago, great. But be aware that more things are coming out, and you need to, every few years at least, kind of check things out again. And
well, I think it's funny because I went to my dentist the other day, and I had wanted some things done, and I know part of it is cosmetic, and they didn't want to do it.
Really?
Yeah, and so because they didn't feel that was absolutely necessary, and it's been I don't know, probably a couple years, and now I've gone back. I mean, it's not that I haven't seen them within 2 years. It's just that from the beginning until now, and now they're looking at it differently, and they're saying, oh, okay, well, you didn't have a decay, but we'll find, there's a little bit of mark there, so yeah, okay. But I find that, there's a shift.
Sure. Yeah.
There's a shift.
Yep.
So
And there are, well, that's another area that's shifting is medical marijuana.
yeah.
It's a big topic, and it's a challenge for a lot of communities.
CBD.
And it's something, actually my mother in Massachusetts, marijuana became legal. She had had a number of pains, primarily in her lower back and her knees, and tried every medication that you could try, every system you could try, therapies and everything, and nothing was working. And finally it became legal.
She did
her
the
primary,
CBD or the regular marijuana?
No, CBD. She was actually vaping. And it was the only thing that she found that provided relief.
Yeah.
And that, honestly, that's going to be a big thing for a lot of people.
Well, it's God's plan for hundreds and hundreds of years.
Yeah, well,
I mean, hello.
Opioids is a big problem right now in the country, and she was worried because she was taking some opioids and she thought she'd be addictive and didn't want to get, and then with marijuana, there were a lot of misconceptions, and she said, I don't want to do that, I don't want to get hooked. And I said, Mom, opium, marijuana. I don't know.
Night and day.
I don't know how much longer you're going to live, but I wouldn't want to be living with constant pain. If one of those is going to give you the answer, and they're legal, do it. Now, when she got to the nursing, that's an area that's monitored and generally reimbursed in some way for most people by the government. That presents a problem for skilled nursing providers.
Yeah, the government.
Because it's not federally legal. And so actually when she moved into the nursing, we had to stop doing the marijuana. First there was a discussion about whether she could do it or not, and because she could self-medicate, they allowed it. But we eventually moved away from that and it took about 2 months to find a medication balance that worked, that didn't make her too loopy. And it was a shame that's the situation. I believe in the non-distant future that's going to change. But right now it's one of those very difficult things because it's certain products are legal in one environment, yet not in another, and you really you can't afford to lose your reimbursement.
I did speak with a federal agent, and he said, you cannot smoke pot out. We were talking about the drugs industry and so forth, and he says you still can't smoke pot out in the street in San Francisco. But you can smoke it in your own home.
With a couple of small exceptions, right? Like when we have a day when everybody's out in the park.
420?
Yeah, something like that.
420, that's the day, 420.
Do you know about that? Right.
Well, yeah, because I've driven by it. And you can smell it. It's all over the place.
Smell it? You just open your car windows, you get high as you're driving past that, yes.
In Panhandle.
Right.
This year I didn't go by there. I thought, I don't need that. But so we only have 5 minutes left. So what wisdom can you share with the viewers and the listeners about with aging and your parents and yourself? Because there's a lot of aging people here, that are getting ready to do. Go into retirement.
And or their parents. I will tell you, I think probably there are two things people need to know. One is that the average entrance age has moved up considerably in the last 10 to 15 years. Most people used to move into independent living in their 70s, late 70s, and into assisted living in their 80s, early 83, 84. And then if they moved into skilled, they'd move in their late 80s. All of those have shifted up about 5 years. So that if you're turning 65 now, you might have a parent that is ready for this. So if you're in your 60s, you might want to be looking with an eye for yourself, but you're really probably looking for your parents. And that's because of the blossoming of options that help people in their homes. Whether, I ask every once in a while when I get with a group, has anybody here ordered from Amazon? And it's almost easier to say, has anybody not ordered?
Right.
Because you can get everything you want
almost
instantly, but certainly within a day or two. And Amazon or almost everybody else. So people are able to stay where they are. Now here in Marin, people are are older and in better shape than they are in most of California.
Right.
So that might even slide up a little bit
Yeah.
from there.
Yeah.
So kind of knowing what the typical norms are, and if you have a parent who's 79, you might be thinking about 5 years from now and getting on a list. And educating yourself about the options.
Yeah.
Because 5, 6, 7 years, they might want to do that. And if you don't have that option, it'd be much harder to get what you want or what they want. So looking at the age cohorts and knowing where you are on that spectrum.
In the late 70s, early 80s, you would put yourself on a list?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And
Just
it might
to
cost
clarify.
it might cost a few $100s or something somewhere to be on a list at several places.
Yeah.
But it's worth it. It's much better than buying insurance or something. It's giving you an option because something usually happens that's preceded somebody moving in, some fall, some incident, some accident at the house, the stove was left on or something.
You just never know.
You don't know when that's going to hit, and having planned ahead is important. And then when you're looking at it, what you can afford or what you believe you can afford, because there are very different types of communities. Some are more affordable, like ours, where there's very little entry, and it's really to cover the community aspects, and then a monthly ongoing, and you have to plan out, okay, if mom lives to 99, I think you were saying you knew somebody that lived to
107.
107, right.
Wow.
If somebody lives to 107, that's going to take a long time and a fair amount of resources. And what is the option if somebody outlives their resources? There are 4 or 5 key questions to think about and ask. What happens? What's the entry? What's the commitment? Is there some support if people's outlive their resources? And the Redwoods has that. We call it the Share Fund, and other communities have it as well. But and then if you really want a certain view or a certain style, do you have to wait longer for that?
Oh, okay.
And knowing that kind of information allows you the option when you want it. 90% of people are not going to choose this. And that's another important thing to know. Most people will die in their own home or in a hospital or after a very short stay in a nursing home. Most people are not going to choose to go to a retirement community. And that's great too. We celebrate that. That's wonderful. But for those people that plan ahead and want that socialization, want those amenities, you really have to think about what it is, where it is, who do I want to be near? My mom has often said when I was in Washington, she wanted to move down there. And I said, Mom, my wife does international work. I might move somewhere else. I'm glad they didn't because I'm not there anymore.
Yeah.
So you need to think about who you want to be around too.
Right.
So those
but
are
you have
important
siblings
issues.
that she's around, right?
I do too. My brother and sister both live. My brother lives within about 15 minutes. My sister within an hour.
Wow. And she's got it made.
So she does. She stayed where her community was. She stayed where her friends are. She moved to a retirement community. They moved to a retirement community where they had a bunch of friends, and they had the children around.
Wow. I so appreciate you sharing. And our time is up already.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you for coming and sharing, because it is a wealth of information. And